Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. We are officially moved in to our new digs, which, if you're listening to the podcast, that means maybe very little to you. But did you know that we actually post all of these podcast recordings to a dedicated YouTube channel? Now, there's probably a pretty good chance that you have stumbled across our other YouTube channel, Anthony Vicino. That maybe is what brought you here to the podcast. And if so, awesome. It's good to have you here. But we do also have another channel called Amplified Impact, where if you go there, you can actually see all the video recordings for all these podcasts. You can see me in HD. I don't know. We don't do a lot of editing or anything like that. So if you're interested, definitely go check that out. If you're more of like a visual person, or if you like to listen on YouTube, if you're a YouTube Premium user, you can just check out the podcast there and let it kind of play in the background. But if you are watching on the YouTube channel, you will notice that my background is drastically different today. In fact, it looks like I'm in the top of a skyscraper, which we are. We've moved in the last week, this week. So depending on when you're listening to this, chances are this episode will go out, my guess is March, maybe April. And right now I'm recording it at the beginning of January. So we just crossed over the New Year's threshold. And Jamie and I decided that we were ready for a change. We were ready to move to a new location, which was a very, very big decision for us. Jamie had been living in our last house for 10 years. I had been living there for 5 years since her and I started dating. And it is the longest that I've ever lived in one place, which is really crazy to think. Like, my dad was military, and I don't know if I've shared this before, but we grew up traveling a lot. So I lived in Germany for a little bit, lived in Alabama, lived in Missouri, lived in South Dakota, and we were just moving every couple of years, and that pattern continued even as I got out of high school and went out into the world on my own. You know, I moved out to South Dakota for a bit, then back to Minnesota, then California, Tennessee, just kept bopping around, and it's just, in recent years, just kind of settled. And we had been in the house for 5 years, and that house, you know, we bought that thing for $220,000, and it served us really well. It was great. It was really cheap to live in, and we loved it. But as we were, you know, looking at our lives and saying, what are the things that we really value? What would we really like? There was just some things missing. And one of my big downfalls, or one of my weaknesses, something that I really struggle with, is the idea of frugality and spending money. I'm just really cheap. I really hate it because I remember so much the stress and the anxiety that I felt back when I had no money and I was living in the back of that van. And I guess just a lot of fear motivates me to go and keep accumulating more wealth and security so that I never have to go back to that place. But the result is, you know, sometimes we sacrifice our present for the future a little bit too much. And that's where we were getting to, where we realized, okay, we can afford to spend a little bit more on our living, especially because, you know, you spend so much time in your home. For me, you know, my home office, I'm in my home office right now. I spend a lot of time here. But one of the things that I'm so excited about with this move is it's literally a 3-minute walk. I time it from my door to the door of Invictus's headquarters. 3 minutes walk, which is really rad. So I'm really excited. One of the things, and I wanted to share this with you guys because this is relevant. I'm going to make it relevant. I promise. It's not just me talking about me this entire time. But when we moved, one of the things that I really wanted that was high value to me was I wanted to wake up every morning and look at something beautiful. I wanted to wake up in bed and be able to look out the window and see, you know, a beautiful lake or a mountain or like a beautiful cityscape. Like, there's beauty comes in all sizes, shapes, and forms. And that was something that was very, very important to me. So when we decided to move here, like, the main motivating factor, it's very different than what we were living in before. You know, before we were living in this little 1960s Rambler. Now we're living on the 14th story of this pretty nice little apartment building with, you know, all these amenities I'm not used to, not having to like drive to the gym or mow the lawn and all that. So, like, pretty excited about that. But the main motivating factor was just I wanted to wake up and look at something beautiful and inspiring. And if you guys can see out my window, like, I have an amazing view. I'm just really blessed and just really, really happy with it. So I share this though because Jamie and I had been talking about moving for the better part of 2 years. And remember, we lived in that house for 5 years. And we've been talking about it for 2 years. And every year since 2020, we came into the year and we said, okay, we're going to set the goal. We're going to move this year. Then 2020 happened, right? And so that was like, okay, maybe this isn't the time to move, right? So it was an easy justification. Then 2021 happened, And life just got in the way, right? There was no good reason for us to not have moved in 2021, but just life just kind of happens sometimes. And then fast forward to 2022, last year, we came into the year and I was like, we're 100% moving this year. Jamie really wanted this, and it was up to me to make it kind of happen, to make the decision to make it happen. Because I get so rooted in my ways and my habits, my routines, that change is very difficult for me. And so she knew that if I wasn't the one that was like driving the ship on this, that it wasn't going to happen. So I came into the year, I said, going to move this year. Well, we get to October, and I haven't even put any time or energy or mental bandwidth into the idea of moving because we had just a really crazy year at Invictus. And that was another easy thing to point to and say, life is getting in the way of this big goal. Well, it was in October. I don't remember what happened or why, but I just kind of popped up my head. Suddenly we're at the end of this massive year at Invictus, and I realized I was looking at my goals for the year, and I realized like that one of the biggest goals that I hadn't accomplished or even put any energy into. Like, it's one thing to not accomplish your goal, but to not put it because it's a hard, hairy, audacious goal. It's another thing to not achieve the goal because you just didn't try. And I realized like I hadn't even tried, and so we started looking immediately and made a decision pretty quickly because I'm a big fan of making fast decisions and not overthinking things. And so we decided we're going to move by the end of the year, in which we did on New Year's Day. So we technically missed the goal, but like close enough. And I share this all because the thing that I keep coming back to, and like the lesson I learned this year from this experience, was that it never feels like the right time. It will never feel like the right time to do the hard thing. And it's very easy to point to life as getting in the way, or circumstances, or whatever. It's very easy to look at it and say, it's just not the right time. But if you just pause for a second and reflect on the fact that there is no right time. There is only now. There is no right time. There is only now. And if you take that to heart and realize that you don't have tomorrow, yesterday's gone. All you have is this moment, which Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about in his book, The Power of Now. And I highly recommend that book. It's fantastic. You realize all we have is this moment, and so we must make the most of it and realize that life is always going to be in the way. It's a constant. And so if there's something that you're putting off that you want to do, that you want to accomplish, but the timing just doesn't feel right, I'm here to encourage you to stop thinking about that and just start taking action. I know you're busy. I know you have a lot on your plate, but if not now, when? And the truth is, it's always tomorrow. It's always next week. It's always next year, if you let it. The procrastination, the delaying, because it's hard. Whatever it is that you want to do, that goal, that ambition, that move, it's always going to be hard. The truth, though, is the sooner you make that decision, the sooner you start executing towards your goal, the sooner you achieve it, the better. The longer you delay the decision, the longer you delay the action, well, it's just going to separate you from accomplishing that goal. So I hope this serves you. I don't know if it did. But I was really excited. I just wanted to share the story of the move and everything and how that came about, because it was a big deal for me in my personal life. Like I said, I haven't moved in a long time. And here's a really crazy thing too, is like before I lived with Jamie, like I was living, sharing a room with like my best friend's mom for a couple of years. Like I haven't been a big, this is the most big adult thing I've ever done in my life. It feels like, is like this big move into like this new apartment. So hope this brought you a little bit of value. If it did, maybe just consider sharing it with a friend. If it didn't, maybe don't. And that's going to do it for me, guys. I appreciate you being here, taking a little bit of time out of your day. And as always, stay hyper-focused, my friend. I'll see you in the next episode.